Hello, it's Molly Reamer with Bridget's Grove and 30 Days of Goddess, and I wanted to make this quick little video to celebrate the fact that we've reached 600 Days of Goddess. When I started this practice back in January of 2021, I considered it to be a 1-month offering with the idea that perhaps people might continue if they wanted to, but they didn't have to. And I certainly didn't expect that I would have published 19 different volumes of our daily practice prayer books since that time. So it really has taken off in a way that I didn't expect and has carried a lot more power and really kind of life change than I expected. I originally began it as a promo effort for my Whole and Holy Goddess devotional book, and in its own way, it has developed into this whole process and even kind of a movement for goddess-centered spiritual practice, but also just making a space for the sacred in your everyday. So I've said before, it could rightfully be called 365 Days of Goddess, or Goddess Every Day, or Everyday Magic, or Everyday Sacred. But I do think it's important to keep coming back to the 30-day space holding, the 30-day container. So that's why I continue to call it 30 Days of Goddess, because there's an invitation there and the understanding that you can stop and start and it's not going to go away. Like, there'll still be a place for you. You still belong. You can still come back. There's no pressure to perform. And so if I'd started out calling it 600 Days of Goddess, I don't think anybody would still be here today, me included, because basically that's just too much to include at once. That said, I really do want to acknowledge this milestone and the power of having committed to 600 days of consistent practice. And I've had a daily practice for a long time. I've been committed to a daily practice of yoga for 20 years. I've been committed to assorted practices. But what 30 Days of Goddess has done for me, and what I hope it has done for you, or what it will crack the door open in and invite you into, is it brings daily practice, brings the priority of our spiritual practice back into the center of our lives instead of squeezed around the edges. So yes, I've had a daily practice for 20 years, but in many ways it was squeezed in the margins. It was squeezed around the edges. One of the things I wrote in Walking with Persephone is that the first secret, the first task of rebuilding one's soul is to leave a wide margin for magic. And I really feel like that's what 30 Days of Goddess offers to people, is this margin for magic. But it's more than a margin for magic. It's more about returning magic to the center. It's about bringing yourself back to the center of your own life. And so one of the things that I've noticed is how, and I felt this in myself, that kind of, I would feel this, and I've spoken about this in other videos, I would feel this kind of sense of the goddess, this sense of the sacred, this sense of magic, this sense of enchantment, and I would feel it there, like present, but it was kind of saved for later. It was kind of something that would be left waiting till the end of the day, something that I would hunger for, that I would long for, that I would know when I felt it, and I would think, I want more of this, but then I wouldn't necessarily know how. And so 30 Days of Goddess became that how, and that's what I see in other people as well. I've heard, someone on Instagram recently described it as combining mindfulness, spirituality, and art into one. And that's absolutely what it does. I just loved reading that because I'm like, that's what I did this for. Like, that's what I wanted to make for everyone and for myself, is something that brings mindfulness, spirituality, art, contemplation, and magic all into one space, all into one thing, all into one invitation, all into one process. And so I loved reading that. And I really do. I'm like, I wrote some notes this morning in my little prayer book, 600 days of seeking, of finding the sacred in the ordinary, the magic in the everyday, 600 days of making a space for ourselves and the sacred in our own lives, 600 days of dropping into center, of making a place for magic, and of creating a container where our lives and the holy meet and are discovered to be the same thing. 600 days of promise keeping and vow tending. 600 days of showing up and knowing our lives as showing up and allowing our own lives to meet the goddess, to meet the holy, to meet the sacred right where we are. So that's what this is all about. That's what we're here for. And And it's okay to, if you feel the hunger, if you feel the longing, if you feel those whispers of enchantment, it's okay to move them into center. That doesn't mean abandoning the people that we love and the projects that we care about, but it's okay to recenter yourself, your own spirit, like into your own life, and to make that be a priority, a practice of regularly returning, a regular returning to center, a regular returning to the self, a regular returning to the center, to the sacred, a regular opportunity to resettle and to recommit. And so 30 Days of Goddess really invites us to recommit to our spirits in every single day. And that's powerful. There's power there. There's magic there. There's enchantment there. And I've said recently, like, I hesitate to make promises about things, but truly I do believe that 30 Days of Goddess has the power. This process has the power to change your life. It has the power to add more meaning. It has the power to add magic. It has the power to bring more calm, more peace, more connection. It has the power to do all those things. And I think that we're all kind of seeking for that, for more meaning, more power, more personal power, more connection, more magic, more enchantment. And so that space is there, however you want to use it, however involved you want to get. You can keep it really small, really simple, really sweet and simple. That those breaths of the sacred that touch every day, they touch every day, I promise. They're there. And when you make a space to just open your eyes, open your heart, and open your mind to see them, they will be there. The goddess, the sacred, will show up in some way. You're showing up, the sacred shows up too. It will be there in some way. And I wanted to say really briefly, this I looked at my Facebook memories this morning, and there was an interesting pairing of 3 different things. And so from 11 years ago, I had posted, 11 years ago, I had posted, I am tired of feeling like my life is one long, often failed self-improvement project. And I've written poems about that later. I didn't remember I'd written that 11 years ago. I thought I'd written that, maybe more recently, like 4 years ago or something. And so I had that moment. And then from 9 years ago, I had posted, I want to try an experiment, a say no experiment. And I know that we're often invited to, seize the day and say yes to everything and live a yes-based life. And in my post, I had said, I've wondered about saying no to everything for 30 days and seeing what's left, like seeing what I still want. And then 1 year ago, I had posted a quote from Walking with Persephone saying that essentially the question of, is there space for you in your own life? And I looked at all 3 of those things together and I thought, 30 Days of Goddess is my answer to all of those questions. 30 Days of Goddess has synthesized, integrated, and renewed my practices and my spirit, really, and my connection, and all of those things that I struggled with. And the quote from Walking with Persephone is actually from 3 years ago. I'd shared it last year, but it was from 3 years ago. And so all of those things that I was wrestling with or struggling with, making a space for myself in my own life, saying no and recommitting to center, recommitting to what really matters, like what the whispers of longing are, what those nudges from desire are, and wanting to cast aside that impulse to be a long self-improvement project. All of those things were solved is the wrong word, but all of those things are really no longer issues for me anymore. And that's thanks to having this container, having this sacred space, thanks to having 30 Days of Goddess, and to being committed to bringing magic out of the margins and back into center. So that's what I wish for you too. And whether you commit for 30 days or 60 days or 600 days, welcome. There is a space for you. And this process of simple, sacred, regular showing up in your own life will change it for the better. It will add meaning, it will add magic, it will add mystery, and it will add connection. Thanks so much for being here, and may you have a beautiful and wonderful 600 more days of Goddess. And here I am with my little remote, and it's not